Dad, can I share with them? Millionaire's daughter points to the single mom at the table next to. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's dive into today's story. In a lavish restaurant on the Upper East Side, where every meal is a work of art and the atmosphere hums with soft conversation, a small family sat at a corner booth. The flickering candle on their table cast a warm glow over the elegant dishes, each one meticulously prepared by a five-star chef. Liam Parker, a tech billionaire, sat across from his daughter, Emma, who was busy looking over the menu. As she scanned the options, her eyes suddenly darted across the room, landing on a woman sitting at the table next to theirs. The woman, a single mom, appeared tired, her clothes slightly worn, and her son seemed restless, playing with his utensils as his mom tried to calm him down. Emma's heart ached for them. She could see the exhaustion in the woman's eyes, a mirror of what she had sometimes seen in her own mother's face when they had to scrimp and save just to make ends meet. Dad, can I share with them? Emma suddenly asked, her voice breaking through the low hum of the restaurant. Liam raised an eyebrow, looking at his daughter curiously. What do you mean? He asked, not quite understanding. That lady there. Emma pointed discreetly at the single mom. She looks like she could use a little help. Can I share our dinner with them? I feel bad for her. Liam, the successful businessman, could not deny that he was moved by his daughter's compassion. He glanced at the woman at the neighboring table, her face worn from years of struggle. But he was also hesitant. His world was far removed from the one Emma was seeing, and he wasn't sure if helping out in such a way was appropriate. Yet, looking at his daughter's pleading expression, he knew there was no way to say, "No, sure, sweetheart. Go ahead," he said with a soft sigh, setting down his menu. Emma's face lit up, and she excitedly stood up, making her way to the woman's table. As she approached, the single mom looked up in surprise. "Excuse me," Emma began. "I noticed you looked like you could use some help. My dad and I would like to share our meal with you. Please, it's no trouble at all." The woman looked at her in disbelief, unsure of how to respond. "You don't have to," she said hesitantly, "but I would really appreciate it." Emma smiled brightly, her kindness shining through. She returned to her seat, leaving the single mom with a plate of the finest roast chicken and mashed potatoes. Liam watched this all in silence, a small but genuine smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. He was proud of his daughter, though a part of him was unsure of what he had just allowed. It wasn't until later that evening, at a charity gala, that he would find out just how much that moment of kindness would change everything. As the evening unfolded, Liam watched Emma speak to several people in the room, always with a smile on her face, always with the same pure heart. But when she noticed a familiar face across the room, she froze. It was the woman from the restaurant, now standing on the stage being introduced as the guest of honor. She was a key donor to one of the event's main causes. Emma's jaw dropped in shock, her eyes locking with the woman's. The woman smiled at her warmly, but Emma felt the weight of her own confusion. Why was this woman at the gala? Why didn't she say anything about who she was? It was only then that Emma realized that the woman wasn't just some random diner at the table next to theirs. She was a millionaire, one who had chosen not to reveal her true identity. As the evening progressed, Liam and Emma found themselves having a private conversation with the woman, whose name was Sarah. Emma's head was spinning with the realization that her act of kindness had not only connected them, but also revealed Sarah's hidden identity. Sarah, on the other hand, had been quietly watching the family from the start, impressed by the sincerity of Emma's gesture. As the night ended and Liam began to connect the dots, he too realized that they had just experienced something special, a reminder of what truly mattered in life. I knew that Emma's kindness had touched something deep inside me, but I never imagined the ripple effect it would have. The evening of the charity gala had barely ended, and already I found myself thinking about Sarah, the woman we had met earlier. As I stood there, watching Emma chat with guests and continue to shine with her infectious enthusiasm, a part of me felt a growing admiration for her. Her sincerity was unlike anything I had seen in the business world, where people were usually only interested in what others could offer them. For Emma, There was no hidden agenda, just pure kindness. But that wasn't the only thing that lingered in my mind. Sarah. She had quietly taken a seat at our table and introduced herself with a warm smile. But it wasn't until later that Emma realized who she really was. As Sarah began to speak about her work and the causes she supported, I watched her with a mixture of respect and disbelief. The woman who had been sitting at a nearby table, looking like a single mother in need of help, was not just an ordinary person. She was a key figure in the philanthropic world, a millionaire whose generosity reached far beyond what anyone could have imagined. The fact that she hadn't revealed her true identity at the restaurant struck me. Why hide it? Was it because she wanted to see who would offer her genuine kindness without any expectations? Or was there something deeper, a longing to be seen as a person first, not as someone defined by wealth? As the night wore on, I found myself sitting across from Sarah, discussing future charity projects. She spoke about how much Emma's gesture had meant to her, how it reminded her of the importance of family and connection. You know, she said with a thoughtful expression, I've spent so many years building my empire, but it was only tonight, when I saw your daughter's simple act of kindness, that I truly felt what it meant to be part of something bigger than myself. Her words struck me. I had spent my whole life focused on success, on business, on profits, on connections. But in that moment, I realized that what truly mattered wasn't how much money I had or how many people I knew. It was about the connections I made with others, the ones that went beyond surface-level interactions. Sarah's gaze softened as she continued. Sometimes, we get so caught up in who we're supposed to be that we forget to be who we really are. Her words were a wake-up call, a reminder that I, too, had been living in a bubble, focusing only on what I had built. I had pushed away the idea of family, of real human connection, because I was too busy trying to prove myself. But Emma, with her pure heart, had shown me the way. The next day, as I drove Emma to school, I found myself thinking about Sarah's words again. Family was not just about blood. It was about the people you allowed into your life, the ones who made you better, who reminded you of what truly mattered. Maybe it was time for me to stop hiding behind my wealth and start building something real, something that would last, long after the business deals and the profits had come and gone. I spent the next few days reflecting on the conversation with Sarah. Her words about connection and family had lingered in my mind, and I began to realize how much I had neglected the very thing I had always wanted: real, meaningful relationships. I had built my empire on the idea that success was measured by wealth and status, but in the quiet moments, when I wasn't working or attending meetings, I felt an emptiness that I couldn't ignore anymore. It was like there was a part of me that had been missing for years. As I sat in my office one afternoon, scrolling through emails and approving project budgets, I glanced over at the framed photo of Emma on my desk. She was smiling brightly, her arms around a puppy, her innocence shining through. It was hard not to smile when I looked at her. She had this uncanny ability to find joy in the simplest things, and it was a joy that I hadn't felt in so long. I had always been too focused on the next deal, the next step, to really appreciate what was right in front of me. That evening, I decided to call Sarah. I wanted to thank her, but I also had something more to say. When she answered, I could hear the warmth in her voice. Liam, it's good to hear from you. How are things? She asked. I paused for a moment. I've been thinking a lot about what you said the other night, I began. About family and connections. I've been so wrapped up in work for so long that I forgot what really matters. I've been pushing people away, even my own daughter, and I don't want to keep doing that. There was a brief silence on the other end of the line. I think you're starting to see what's important, Sarah replied gently. It's not about having the best deals or the most money. It's about the people you choose to have in your life and how you make them feel. I'm glad you're finally seeing that. I felt a sense of relief in her words, as if a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. You're right, I said. I've spent too much time building walls instead of bridges. And I've been so focused on work that I've missed out on the things that really matter. I need to fix that. Over the next few weeks, I made a conscious effort to reconnect with Emma. I started taking her to school more often, picking her up afterward, and spending weekends with her. Just the two of us. I took her to the park, to art galleries, and even spent an afternoon making homemade pizzas in the kitchen. It wasn't about doing extravagant things. It was about showing up. Emma's face would light up every time I walked into a room, and for the first time in years, I felt like I was truly present for her. But it wasn't just Emma who was noticing the change. My colleagues and friends began to comment on how much more engaged I was, how I seemed more at ease, more relaxed. I was no longer obsessed with the hustle. It felt good to finally allow myself to take a step back and just breathe. Then one afternoon, as I sat in my office thinking about how far I'd come, Sarah called. "Liam," she said, her voice filled with excitement. "I have a new project in mind, and I want you to be a part of it. It's a chance for both of us to make a real difference. Are you in?" The timing was perfect. It was an opportunity to give back, to use everything I had learned in the past few weeks to make a positive impact on the world. "I'm in," I replied, my voice steady with purpose. It wasn't just about business anymore. It was about making connections, about building something that mattered. As the days passed, I started working on the project with Sarah, pouring my heart into it just like I had done with Emma. Together, we worked on initiatives to help families, to provide resources for people like the ones Emma and I had met that night. I realized that I didn't need to choose between my family and my work. I could have both, and that balance was the key to true success. The project was a huge success, and for the first time in a long time, I felt fulfilled. I had found a new purpose, one that wasn't just about wealth or status, but about creating something that would last, a legacy of kindness, compassion, and connection. I was beginning to feel the weight of change lifting from my shoulders. It had been a few months since I made the decision to focus more on family, to reconnect with Emma, and to follow through on the promise I had made to myself to start living with purpose. The project with Sarah had proven to be a turning point, not just in my professional life, but in my personal life as well. I had learned that success wasn't about amassing wealth or expanding my empire. It was about the people I touched along the way, the difference I could make, and the relationships I nurtured. One weekend, as I drove Emma to her favorite park, the sunlight streamed through the trees, casting a warm golden glow over everything. We were both silent, but comfortable in each other's presence. Emma had been excited about the changes in my behavior. She had noticed the effort I was making to be present in her life, and I could see the happiness in her eyes whenever we spent time together. I had started showing up at her school events, helping with her homework, and most importantly, just being there when she needed me. "Dad," Emma said suddenly, breaking the silence. "Do you remember when you were always too busy to come to my dance recital?" Her voice was gentle, but there was a hint of sadness in it. I felt a pang in my chest. I had missed too many of her important moments. "I'm sorry, sweetheart. I should have been there," I replied, my voice tight with regret. "But I'm here now, and I won't miss any more." Emma smiled, and it was like a weight had been lifted from her. I could tell that my words meant more than I realized. She had been patient with me, and it was time I showed her that I was ready to be the father she deserved. The following week, as I was sitting in my office, a familiar number flashed on my phone screen. It was Sarah. I hadn't spoken to her in a few days, but I had a feeling this call would be important. "Liam, I need your help with something," Sarah said as soon as I picked up. "I've been thinking about the work we've been doing, and I think we can take it to the next level. We need to expand our efforts to help single mothers like the one we met at the restaurant." I leaned back in my chair, listening intently. Sarah had always been driven, but this time, there was a different energy in her voice. "What do you have in mind?" I asked. "I want to create a foundation," she said. "One that focuses on providing financial education, job training, and support for single mothers who are struggling to make ends meet. I know it's a big idea, but I think it's something that could truly change lives." I felt a surge of excitement. This was the kind of project I had always dreamed of being a part of. It wasn't just about charity, it was about empowerment, about helping people build better futures for themselves and their families. "I'm in," I said without hesitation. "Let's make it happen." Sarah's voice softened with gratitude. "Thank you, Liam. I knew you'd be on board. We're going to change so many lives together." The next few months were filled with meetings, brainstorming sessions, and a relentless pursuit of our goal. We worked tirelessly, securing funding, developing partnerships, and laying the groundwork for the foundation. I was amazed at how quickly things were coming together. Sarah was an incredible leader, and with my business experience and Emma's constant support, I felt like we were on the brink of something truly transformative. As the day of the foundation's official launch drew near, I felt a sense of pride I hadn't felt in years. It wasn't just the success of the project. It was the realization that I had found my purpose. I had discovered that real wealth wasn't measured by the numbers in a bank account. It was measured by the lives we touched, the kindness we shared, and the love we gave. I had become the man I always wanted to be, not because of what I had built, but because of the people I had helped and the family I had learned to cherish. And as I stood next to Emma, watching the launch event unfold, I knew that this was only the beginning of a new chapter for both of us. The future was bright, and it was filled with the promise of connection, love, and the knowledge that together, we could make the world a better place. I was standing at the front of a large crowd, surrounded by people whose lives had been touched by the foundation. As I looked out over the sea of faces, I couldn't help but feel a sense of fulfillment that I hadn't experienced before. The event was a huge success. More people than we had ever anticipated had shown up, eager to learn about the opportunities our foundation was offering. The work Sarah and I had poured our hearts into was finally coming to fruition. Emma was by my side, as she always had been throughout this journey. She had been a constant source of inspiration for me, reminding me every day that the true purpose of all this wasn't about the recognition or the business deals. It was about helping people, lifting others up, and making the world a better place. I watched her as she chatted with some of the guests, her eyes bright with enthusiasm, her smile as contagious as ever. I had never seen her so full of life. She had grown so much since we had started this journey together, and I couldn't help but feel an overwhelming sense of pride. Emma was thriving in ways I had never expected, and it was all because I had finally made the choice to be there for her, to be present in her life. I couldn't undo the past, but I could change the future, and that's what I was doing now. The foundation had become something much more than just a way to give back. It had become a new purpose for me, a reason to keep pushing forward. And it wasn't just the work I was doing with Sarah, it was the life I was building with Emma. As I made my way through the crowd, I spotted Sarah again. She had been a guiding force throughout this entire process, her vision and determination inspiring me to take risks I never thought I would take. She was standing near a table, talking to a group of single mothers who had just enrolled in the Foundation's job training program. I walked over, and she greeted me with a warm smile. "It's really happening, Liam," she said, her voice filled with excitement. "We're changing lives." I nodded, feeling a deep sense of gratitude for everything that had led me to this moment. "We're just getting started," I replied. As the night went on, I couldn't help but reflect on how far I had come. It wasn't just the success of the foundation or the work we were doing. It was the realization that I had found a new way of living, a new way of thinking. I had learned to embrace the importance of family, of connection, and of kindness. The business world had taught me that power and success were about control, but my experiences over the past few months had shown me that true power lay in giving, in being vulnerable, and in opening up to the people who mattered most. I looked over at Emma again, who was now laughing with a few of the children who had come with their mothers to the event. She was glowing, radiating happiness and joy in a way that only a child could. She was the heart of this journey, the reason I had started this transformation in the first place. I had promised her I would always be there, and I had finally kept that promise. As the event came to a close, I stood with Sarah, Emma, and a few others who had helped make this all possible. Sarah turned to me and said, "This is just the beginning, Liam. We've only scratched the surface. There's so much more we can do together." Her words filled me with determination. We had created something special, but the journey wasn't over. We were just getting started, and together, we would continue to make a difference, one life at a time. I stood in the office, looking out over the city, reflecting on everything that had happened in the past few months. The foundation had grown beyond anything I could have imagined. We had already helped hundreds of families, providing them with the tools and resources they needed to rebuild their lives. What started as an idea over a dinner table had transformed into something much bigger, something that was changing the lives of people every single day. But the journey wasn't over. As I thought about the progress we had made, a sense of urgency began to build inside me. There was so much more to do, so many more lives to touch. I realized that the foundation could be the vehicle through which I could make a lasting impact, not just in the business world, but in the lives of everyday people who had been forgotten for too long. I turned to my phone and pulled up a message from Sarah. She had been working tirelessly on a new project within the foundation, focusing on expanding our reach to other cities. "Liam, we need to talk." There's a new opportunity that could take us to the next level, the message read. I quickly replied, telling her I'd be at her office in an hour. As I arrived, I found Sarah sitting at her desk, papers scattered in front of her. She looked up as I walked in and smiled. "You look like you've been thinking," she said, leaning back in her chair. "I have," I replied. "This foundation, it's bigger than I thought. It's changing lives, but I know we can do even more." Sarah nodded, clearly on the same page. "I've been thinking about the same thing," she said. "There's an opportunity for us to partner with several national organizations. It would allow us to expand rapidly and provide support to families in need across the country. We can provide housing, job training, and mentorship. It's the next step." My heart raced as I listened to her. This was it, the moment I had been waiting for. This was the chance to take everything we had built and scale it, to make an even bigger difference. "Let's do it," I said without hesitation. Sarah's face lit up with excitement. "I knew you'd say that. We're going to need funding, a lot of it. But I believe we can do it." We spent the next few weeks preparing for the launch of our national initiative. We reached out to our network of contacts, secured partnerships with corporate sponsors, and planned the logistics for the expanded services. It was overwhelming at times, but the team we had built, Sarah, Emma, and others, kept me grounded. Together, we would make this work. As we finalized the details, Emma approached me one evening after dinner. She had a thoughtful look on her face, and I could tell she had something important to say. "Dad," she said quietly, "I've been thinking a lot about what we're doing with the foundation. I think it's really special, but I also think we can do something more. Maybe we can help kids who want to become artists or teachers, not just provide for their families. I think that's important too." Her words caught me off guard. Emma, in her own simple way, had reminded me of something important. It wasn't just about giving people the means to survive. It was about giving them the opportunity to thrive, to follow their dreams. I smiled at her, feeling a deep sense of pride. "You're right, sweetheart," I said. "We're going to help them follow their dreams, too. It's not just about the basics. It's about giving them the tools to build the life they want." That night, as I lay in bed thinking about everything that was unfolding, I realized how far I had come. It wasn't just about rebuilding my own life. It was about helping others build theirs. I had finally found my true purpose, not in business deals or acquisitions, but in the act of giving, of making a difference in the world. And with Emma by my side, and Sarah leading the way, I knew we were just getting started. The future was bright, and together, we were going to change the world, one life at a time. I sat at my desk, staring at the spreadsheets in front of me, but my mind wasn't on the numbers. It had been a few months since we had launched the national initiative, and things were moving faster than I had expected. Sarah and I had put our hearts into this project, and now we were seeing the impact we had hoped for. Families across the country were getting the support they needed, financial education, job training, and housing opportunities. But as the foundation grew, I felt a new kind of pressure building. The weight of responsibility was heavier now. We weren't just helping a few families anymore. We were reaching thousands. The success was undeniable, but with it came the question of how much more we could do. Could we reach everyone who needed help? Could we scale this even further? I thought about the conversation I'd had with Emma just a few days ago. She had been right, as always. It wasn't just about surviving. It was about thriving. We had to give people the opportunity to chase their dreams, to aim higher than they had ever imagined. And it wasn't just about the basics. It was about the arts, education, and personal growth. My daughter had an incredible way of seeing the world, and she had always pushed me to think beyond what I knew. She had seen something that even I had missed, the opportunity to empower the next generation to dream big. One evening, after a long day of meetings and calls, I walked into the living room where Emma was sitting, reading a book on the couch. Her eyes lit up when she saw me. "Dad, I have an idea," she said eagerly, putting the book down. I raised an eyebrow, curious. "What's your idea, kiddo?" She smiled and leaned forward. "What if we start a program for kids who want to become artists? We could help them with classes, provide supplies, and even give them a place to showcase their work. There are so many kids who are amazing at painting, drawing, or playing music, but they don't have the resources to pursue it." I was stunned. Emma had been thinking about this for a while. I could tell. I sat down next to her, taking in what she was saying. "You want to help kids become artists?" I asked, a bit surprised by the scope of her idea. "Yeah," she said, her eyes sparkling. I think there are a lot of kids who have talent but don't know how to nurture it. We can give them that opportunity." I was silent for a moment, considering her words. I knew this was a huge step, an expansion of the Foundation's mission. But Emma was right. If we were going to help families, we needed to help them unlock their full potential, not just meet their basic needs. And that included encouraging their creativity and passions. "You know what, Emma?" I said, smiling. "I think that's a great idea. Let's make it happen." I knew this would be a challenge, but it was exactly the kind of challenge I was looking for. The next few months were a whirlwind. We partnered with schools, local artists, and community centers to bring Emma's vision to life. We started offering scholarships for art classes, music lessons, and even theater workshops. We rented out space for exhibitions and performances, giving young artists a platform to show their work. The program was a success, far beyond what we could have imagined. I watched as children, once unsure of their abilities, began to believe in themselves. Their confidence grew, and their talents blossomed. They weren't just learning skills, they were learning to dream. As the program continued to grow, I felt an overwhelming sense of pride. This was the work I was meant to do. It wasn't just about helping people survive, it was about helping them thrive. And as for Emma, I couldn't have been more proud of her. She had sparked a movement, a ripple effect that was changing the lives of so many. It was no longer just a foundation, it was a community, a family, helping each other reach for their dreams. In the end, I realized that the true success in life isn't measured by money or status. It's measured by how many lives you touch, how many people you help find their purpose, and how much love and kindness you spread along the way. I stood in front of the classroom, watching the students as they worked on their art projects. The walls around me were filled with colorful paintings, sculptures, and sketches, each one a unique expression of creativity. It had been a year since we launched the new initiative to help young artists, and the impact it had on the community was beyond anything I could have imagined. I had seen kids who had once struggled to find their voice now confidently creating and sharing their work. Emma's idea had not only helped these kids find their passion, but it had given them the confidence to believe in themselves and their futures. I couldn't have been prouder of her. But as successful as the program had become, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that while we were giving kids the tools to create, we weren't doing enough to prepare them for the next step. We were providing the foundation, but we weren't giving them the guidance they needed to turn their passions into real opportunities. One evening, as Emma and I were sitting at the dinner table, I brought up my concerns. "You know, Em," I said, "we've done amazing things with the art program, but I think we need to do more. We've given these kids the chance to explore their creativity, but we need to help them take the next step. We need to give them a path, a way to turn their talent into a career." Emma looked at me with a thoughtful expression. "What do you mean?" she asked. "Well," I said, "what if we partner with some local businesses and create internships or mentorship programs for these kids? We could help them build their portfolios, introduce them to people in the industry, and give them real-world experience. I think that's the next step for them." Emma's face lit up, and I could see the wheels turning in her head. "That's a great idea, Dad," she said excitedly. "I bet a lot of the kids would love the chance to work with real artists and businesses. It's like taking the next step in their journey." I could see the spark in her eyes, the same spark I had seen when she first suggested the art program. She was ready for the next challenge, and so was I. We began brainstorming ideas for the mentorship program. We reached out to local businesses, artists, and creative professionals, asking if they would be willing to take on young interns or provide guidance to the students. To our surprise, many of them were eager to get involved. The response was overwhelming. In just a few months, we had built a network of mentors and businesses ready to give these kids the opportunity of a lifetime. The mentorship program was born, and with it, a new chapter in the Foundation's mission. We held our first mentorship event in a local gallery, where the students were able to meet their mentors and showcase their work. It was a transformative experience for everyone involved. The kids were nervous at first, unsure of how to approach the professionals in the room. But as the evening went on, they began to open up, sharing their stories and dreams. The mentors were just as eager to hear their stories, offering advice, feedback, and, most importantly, encouragement. It was clear that this was what the students had been waiting for, a chance to connect with people who could help them shape their future. The event was a huge success, and it was just the beginning. Over the next few months, we saw the students gain more confidence and direction in their work. Some of them landed internships. Others found new opportunities to collaborate with established artists. Emma and I watched with pride as these young artists started to see their dreams turn into reality. It was a reminder of why we had started this journey in the first place, to help people find their purpose and follow their passions. And in that moment, I knew we had created something that would last, something that would continue to inspire the next generation of artists to dream big and take action. I stood in the quiet gallery long after the applause had faded, listening to the soft echo of footsteps as the last guests filtered out. The lights were dimmed now, casting a warm glow over the rows of artwork displayed along the walls. These pieces were created by the students in our mentorship program, and tonight had been their very first public exhibition. I felt a deep swell of pride as I looked around. This evening was not just a celebration of their talent. It was a celebration of possibility, of hope, of dreams that once felt unreachable finally finding a home. Emma walked up beside me, her eyes shining as she took everything in. She looked older than her years in that moment, not because of age, but because of the wisdom she carried so naturally. She reached for my hand and gave it a gentle squeeze. "Dad," she whispered, "do you see how happy they are?" I looked at the smiling faces of the young artists, some crying tears of joy, others hugging their families, all glowing with pride. "I see it," I said softly. "You helped make this happen, Em." She shook her head. "We did it together." Her voice was steady, certain, and she was right. This journey had changed both of us. I had become a different man. She had become a powerful force for good. Sarah approached us, a warm smile spreading across her face as she joined the quiet moment. "This is exactly what I hoped it would be," she said, looking around. "These kids finally have a place where their dreams matter." Her tone carried a tenderness that came from genuine care, not obligation. I nodded, feeling the same sense of fulfillment. "This is only the beginning," I said. "There is so much more we can do." Sarah looked at me, her expression softening. "There is something I want to talk to you about," she said gently. "It is personal." My heart skipped for a moment, sensing the shift in her tone. "What is it?" I asked. She took a breath. "Liam, when I first met you and Emma at the restaurant that night, I saw a man who was distant, guarded, always carrying the weight of the world. But now, I see a father who shows up, who leads with heart, who builds with purpose. I see a man who changed because he chose love over fear." Her words struck something deep inside me. I had not expected to feel this emotional, but the truth in her voice washed over me like a quiet tide. Emma looked between us and grinned. "Are you two going to hug, or what?" she teased, breaking the tension. We all laughed, the moment softened by her playful honesty. I reached out and pulled both of them close. Not a grand gesture, not a speech, just a simple, quiet moment of connection. A reminder of how this all began with a single act of kindness in a crowded restaurant. A reminder that the smallest gestures often become the seeds of the greatest changes. As the night wound down, I stepped toward the center of the gallery and looked out at the families still celebrating. They had come from hardships, from struggles, from places where hope had been scarce. Now, they stood in a room filled with possibility. I cleared my throat and spoke with a steady voice. "Tonight is not about success," I said. "It is about belief. Belief in ourselves. Belief in each other. Belief that no matter where we come from, we deserve the chance to become who we are meant to be." The crowd fell silent, listening. "This foundation," I continued, "belongs to all of you. You are the future. Your children are the future. And we will stand with you every step of the way." As the applause rose around me, I felt something settle into place. A truth I had long searched for. Wealth had never made me whole. Power had never made me proud. But this moment, surrounded by the people whose lives we had touched, standing beside my daughter and a woman who had become my partner in every sense of the word, this was where I finally felt complete. Emma slipped her hand into mine again. "Dad," she whispered, "this was the best mistake we ever made." I smiled, knowing exactly what she meant. A simple dinner. A simple act of compassion. A life forever changed. And as we walked out of the gallery together, I understood that this was not an ending. It was the beginning of something extraordinary, built not from money or status, but from kindness, connection, and the courage to love without holding back. This inspiring millionaire story follows a father's transformation after a chance encounter with a single mother and her daughter. The story highlights the profound impact of simple acts of kindness and the unexpected journeys that come from them. As the millionaire works alongside his daughter to build a foundation dedicated to helping others, they not only change the lives of countless people, but also redefine what true success really means. Through this story, we see how a moment of generosity can lead to life-changing opportunities, making it one of the most heartwarming millionaire stories ever told. With an unwavering commitment to empowering others, the father and his daughter find a new purpose, one that is grounded in love, connection, and making a real difference. Their journey is proof that wealth and status are not the true markers of success, but the impact we make in the lives of others is what truly matters. In this millionaire story, we witness how the power of family, kindness, and generosity can lead to extraordinary outcomes. As they help children explore their creative potential, the millionaire's own life is transformed, proving that millionaire stories are more than just about financial success. They are about the positive changes we create together.